My remarried life to an oil prince after my amnesiac husband went mad with regret. 3 days before the wedding, Robert died in a car accident, leaving behind only a handful of ashes. Clutching his portrait, I cried until I vomited blood. A week after the funeral, Robert appeared, arm in arm with his first love, Sarah, claiming he didn't remember who I was. Struck as if by lightning, I went to the Robert family estate to confirm. Outside the study, I overheard his conversation with Patricia. Robert, planning that accident and faking amnesia is too cruel to Eleanor. Is it worth it for that frail Sarah? She probably won't survive this winter. What will you and Eleanor do then? Robert's voice was weary. Mom, I owe Sarah. She took a knife for me back then, which saved my life. She's seriously ill, and we're destined not to spend forever together. But we must have a child of our own. As for Eleanor, after Sarah is gone, I'll compensate her. She loves me. She'll be willing to raise Sarah's child. I felt completely numb. It turned out my deep affection was merely a sacrifice to repay another's love. Wiping away my tears, I trembling dialed a number. Grandfather George, I said. The marriage proposal from the Middle East oil prince. I accept. The conversation in the study continued. Patricia added, Eleanor's grandfather George isn't easy to deal with. If you ask her to have a child for Sarah and she finds out and makes a scene, Sarah won't be able to handle it. Robert's voice turned cold. She wouldn't dare. Her family is far overseas, beyond their reach. Once the child is born, it'll make her understand that her only path is to be obedient and stay in her place. She should be honored to bear a child for Sarah honored. I covered my mouth, biting until it bled. Hatred and humiliation burned in my chest. I had stayed in the country for Robert, spending all my money. In return, I was merely a tool to raise his first love's child, and I was supposed to be grateful? Fine, I hung up the phone, my nails breaking in my palm, blood seeping out. I didn't feel the pain. The ache in my heart overshadowed everything. I composed myself, wiped away my tears, and pushed open the study door with a calm expression. Robert? I said regretfully. Mom, what are you talking about? I came to see Robert. Robert looked at me, frowned, and then put on a bewildered expression. Patricia immediately took my hand and sighed. Eleanor, you're too devoted. Robert, sigh, don't pressure him. Sarah is weak, and Robert only remembers her. Let him stay with Sarah for now. Maybe he'll remember you someday. Sarah walked in then, leaning against Robert's arm, looking at me timidly. Eleanor, I'm sorry, Robert doesn't remember you. Please don't blame him. I looked at the three of them, a cold laugh in my heart. In the days that followed, I became an outsider in the Robert family estate. Sarah flaunted Robert's affection in front of me. Robert played the part of being amnesiac and deeply devoted to Sarah flawlessly. One day, Sarah suggested with a smile that we hold a party at the old theater where Robert and I had first fallen in love, saying it would stimulate Robert's memory. At the old theater, Sarah had decorated with a lot of white drapery and string lights. The air smelled of kerosene. Eleanor, Robert says this place feels familiar to him. Sarah linked arms with Robert, smiling innocently, her eyes full of malice. Robert obligingly frowned, then shook his head blankly. I twitched my lips. Just then, Sarah shrieked, dropping her champagne flute, which knocked over a candelabra nearby. Flames leaped up, igniting the white drapery. Fire! The crowd screamed, scattering in panic. Robert, save me. I'm scared. I twisted my ankle. Sarah cried out, falling at Robert's feet and clutching his leg. I watched Robert, in the firelight. He didn't hesitate, scooping up Sarah and rushing towards the exit without a backward glance. He didn't even look at me. Flames surged forward, the thick smoke choking me. The platinum bracelet on my wrist grew scorching hot, branding my skin with a searing sound. The pain was agonizing, mixed with the smell of burning flesh. Robert, I screamed, my voice swallowed by the flames. His retreating back, carrying Sarah, felt like a knife plunged into my heart. I remembered one year, when the power suddenly went out at home. I fumbled in the dark to light a candle and accidentally dripped hot wax on the back of my hand, just a small red patch. But Robert was incredibly anxious. He immediately pulled my hand to the faucet, carefully rinsing it under cold water for over 10 minutes. Then he rummaged through cabinets to find burn ointment and gently applied it for me, murmuring constantly, "How could you be so careless? What if you got badly burned? I'll do these things from now on." The tenderness in his eyes had seemed ready to overflow. I struggled, relying on memory to avoid the burning objects, crawling towards the abandoned back door, Thick smoke blurred my vision, and my whole body burned with pain as my consciousness began to fade. My phone vibrated in my pocket. With fingers that were red and raw, I swiped open the screen. A message from the prince's special assistant. Your Highness, the private jet departs in 10 days, wishing you a smooth journey. After escaping the fire, the burn on my wrist ached piercingly night after night. The next day, I forced myself to appear in the Robert family estate's dining room. Robert and Sarah were flirting affectionately, completely oblivious to my presence. Seeing me, Sarah's lips curled into a triumphant smile, but her voice was deliberately concerned. Eleanor, is your wrist all right? The fire was so big yesterday. Robert was really worried about you. He kept saying he was afraid something had happened. Robert didn't even look up, only grunting a coldo from his throat. I lowered my eyes, my voice hoarse. I'm fine. In the following days, Sarah found every opportunity to stage her deep love with Robert in front of me. She would deliberately wear dresses in colors I used to love, use the tableware I had carefully selected, and even ask Robert to feed her fruit right in front of me. Robert played the role of amnesia and exclusive affection for Sarah perfectly. Occasionally, when he looked at me, a fleeting complex emotion would flash in his eyes, but as soon as Sarah made a move, that flicker would instantly be replaced by a deeper coldness. One day, Sarah was browsing in my room and immediately spotted the sapphire pendant with a twin swan's carving given to me by my mother, which I wore around my neck. This sapphire pendant isn't great quality, and the style is old. Why are you still wearing it? She reached out, intending to take it off. I sharply stepped back, my hand instinctively covering the sapphire pendant. My mother had trembling placed the sapphire pendant around my neck before she died. She had said, Eleanor, when you see this sapphire pendant, it's like seeing me. Mom will always protect you. Robert had also held it once, whispering in my ear, I will protect you with my life. Just like your mother, for eternity, for eternity. His vows, thinking of them now, each word felt like a steel needle, stabbing deeply into my heart. Seeing my strong reaction, a sinister glint flashed in Sarah's eyes. She then turned to Robert, who had appeared and was leaning against the doorframe, her voice incredibly sweet and petulant. Robert, I want a sapphire pendant too, one bigger, more flawless, and more expensive than Eleanor's. Will you get it for me? Robert didn't even glance at the sapphire pendant around my neck. He just gave Sarah a doting smile. Why bother with that old relic? I'll have Sotheby's find you an imperial green sapphire and have it carved into a phoenix, your favorite. Sarah immediately jumped for joy, giving me a provocative glance, her eyes saying, see, everything you cherish means nothing to him. My heart was already numb. But even so, these casual words stung, drawing blood. A few days later, a thin layer of ice covered the lotus pond in the Robert family estate's back garden. Sarah kindly invited me to admire the plum blossoms by the pond. She deliberately brought up past memories of Robert and me, using the most innocent tone to say the most vicious things, each word mocking my overconfidence. I didn't argue with her. Suddenly, she slipped, bumping into me. Her hand violently swept across the sapphire pendant around my neck. The thin cord snapped instantly, and the sapphire pendant fell straight onto the frozen surface of the pond with a sharp, piercing crack, shattering into several pieces. A larger piece spun and slid into a section of ice that hadn't completely frozen, disappearing instantly. The sound of the sapphire pendant breaking was like my mother's last week's sigh before she died in my arms when I was little. My mother held me and pointed to the twin lotus flowers in the courtyard, saying, Our Eleanor, you must be like these lotus flowers. No matter how much wind and rain you face, you must live on, resilient and pure. Mom, your daughter is unworthy. I couldn't even protect this last memento you left me. Oh dear, I'm so sorry, Eleanor. I really didn't mean to. Sarah shrieked, feigning innocence, but her eyes were full of triumphant glee. My mind went blank. I lunged towards the pond like a madwoman, reaching out desperately to retrieve the pieces. The ice was too thin. With a crack, it broke, and my hand plunged directly into the bone-chilling ice water. Eleanor, what the hell are you doing? Robert appeared out of nowhere and roughly dragged me away from the pond's edge. His grip so strong it felt like he would crush my wrist. I looked at him, tears streaming uncontrollably down my face, my voice broken and hoarse. The sapphire pendant, my mother's sapphire pendant. He frowned, his tone full of impatience and disgust. It's just a piece of broken sapphire. Is it worth you trying to kill yourself over? Sarah said it was an accident. What if you scare her again over something so trivial? I'll get you 10 identical ones later. Sarah seized the opportunity to accidentally kick another larger piece of the broken sapphire pendant on the ice, shattering it further. Only then did she hide behind Robert, showing only half her face timidly, her eyes sparkling with victory. Robert didn't even look at the fragments lying by the cold pond. He dragged me back inside, his grip as rough as if he were hauling a lifeless piece of garbage. My hands were already frozen red and stiff from the ice water, my fingernails filled with bone-chilling mud and cuts from the broken ice. That night, I burned with fever, slipping in and out of consciousness. In my delirium, I heard Sarah's moans and gasps from the living room outside my door. Robert, how could you be so cruel? While I was half dead inside my room, you were carrying on outside with your first love as if I didn't exist. The moans and gasps from the living room outside my door pierced my ears. Robert, are you that eager for Sarah to get pregnant? I curled up in the cold bed, the chill of the high fever seeping from my bones. Robert, just pretend I'm dead. It's better that way. In the evening, my illness worsened. I couldn't swallow the food the maid or staff brought. My door was gently pushed open. It was Robert. He held a bowl of porridge, seafood porridge, the kind he used to make when I was sick. He walked to the bedside, his voice seeming to hold a touch of gentleness. Why aren't you eating? I didn't look at him. He put down the bowl and reached out to feel my forehead. His fingers were slightly cool, but their touch felt like hot coals, still burning up. He said, a hint of annoyance? Or something else, barely noticeable, in his tone. I closed my eyes. He was silent for a moment, then said, come, let me feed you. Drink the porridge, then you'll get better. I thought he would sit down and feed me like he used to, even just a spoonful. Just then, Sarah's fragile voice came from outside the door. Robert, are you in there? My chest hurts so much. Please come see me quickly. Robert's body stiffened. That brief, complex emotion in his eyes was instantly replaced by coldness. He immediately got up and said to me, eat it yourself. Then he quickly walked out. Soon, his gentle coaxing whispers to Sarah could be heard from outside the door. I opened my eyes, looking at the bowl of still warm porridge on the bedside table. My stomach churned. It turned out that the occasional flicker of pity he showed was so fragile it couldn't withstand the slightest challenge. At Sarah's slightest call, I was nothing. I threw off the covers and poured the bowl of porridge untouched into the toilet. 3 days were left until I left. That day was also Sarah's birthday, and the Robert family estate was brightly lit. Eleanor, it's my birthday today. Robert is throwing a party for me. You absolutely must come. Sarah linked arms with me, her fingernails digging into my arm. The ballroom was packed with guests. Robert wore a black suit, and Sarah clung to his side like a fluttering butterfly. No one looked at me. I stood in a corner, like a lost soul. Midway through, Sarah walked towards Mr. Stevens with a champagne flute. She stumbled, spilling red wine all over Mrs. Stevens. Mrs. Stevens immediately erupted in anger. Sarah instantly burst into tears, pointing at me. It was her. Eleanor suddenly bumped into me. All eyes turned to me, filled with disdain and contempt. Robert walked over, his face livid. He didn't even look at me, apologizing directly to Mr. and Mrs. Stevens. I apologize. I haven't disciplined her properly. He turned to me, his voice ice cold. Eleanor, apologize. I looked at him, saying nothing, feeling only the absurdity of it all. Are you deaf? Robert roared. Sarah persuaded him from his arms. Robert, don't be angry. Eleanor probably didn't mean to. I let out a cold laugh. Sarah, your act is truly magnificent. Robert's eyes sharpened. It seems I've been too lenient with you. Guards. 2 bodyguards stepped forward. Make her kneel in the back garden. Let her reflect properly. It was the dead of winter, and heavy snow was falling outside. My coat and shoes were accidentally snatched away by Sarah during the struggle. The bodyguards dragged me out expressionlessly and locked the glass door leading to the garden. Barefoot and in a single dress, I was thrown into the accumulated snow. The music and laughter from inside were a world away from my freezing cold. Snowflakes fell on me, quickly covering me. I curled up, my teeth chattering. The high fever returned. I don't know how long passed before the glass door opened a crack. Robert stood there, looking down at me, his eyes devoid of any warmth, only disgust. Do you know you're wrong? I looked at him, my lips moving slightly. I uttered 2 words. No. The temperature in his eyes plummeted. I felt as if I was seeing that winter again, a snowy night just like this one. My hands and feet were freezing. Robert had wrapped my cold hands in the warm pocket of his coat, breathing onto them and saying, "Eleanor, with me here, your world will never be cold again." How laughable, Robert. Your promises were always worthless. He sneered. It seems you still haven't learned your lesson, Eleanor. You don't deserve the warmth inside. You'll stay out here. When you're ready to admit you're wrong, then you can beg me. The door closed again, cutting off the last sliver of warmth. I closed my eyes. Snowflakes landed on my eyelashes, melting into cold drops that mixed with my tears. My consciousness began to fade. A sudden, sharp, ominous cramps gripped my abdomen. The snow stopped. The sky remained overcast. The cramps in my abdomen came in increasingly strong waves, and cold sweat soaked my thin dress. I curled up on the icy ground, my consciousness flickering between clarity and delirium. A maid or staff was sent with ginger soup, supposedly ordered by Miss Sarah, who, forgetting bygones, had specially instructed the kitchen to prepare it for me to ward off the cold. I looked at the dark, murky soup, and my stomach churned. Eleanor, this is a tonic Robert specifically found for you, Sarah said, walking in with a smile of pure goodness. He says you're weak and need to nourish yourself properly, so you can bear children for the Robert family estate. I laughed coldly in my heart. Bear children? She meant prepare a healthy vessel for her Sarah's child, didn't she? I won't drink it. My voice was hoarse. Sarah's face changed. Then she softened again, turning to Robert, who was standing by the door. Robert, Eleanor. Robert walked in, picked up the bowl of medicine, his expression complex and unreadable. It finally settled into a single command. Drink it. Stop being difficult. I looked at him. This was the man I had loved to the bone. Robert, I said, word by word. What if I told you I might be carrying your child? His hand, holding the bowl, trembled imperceptibly. Sarah shrieked, impossible. Robert has amnesia. He's only been with me. Eleanor, you're using this lie to trick Robert into staying. Robert's gaze instantly turned bone-chilling. He grabbed my chin, his grip strong enough to shatter my bone, and forcefully poured the medicine down my throat. The bitter, spicy liquid choked me, and I coughed violently, but he paid no attention until the entire bowl was empty. Eleanor, don't challenge my limits with these tactics again. A violent abdominal pain seized me again. I curled up on the ground in agony, my body convulsing. Robert, help me, save the baby. Just then, Sarah let out an ah, and collapsed softly into Robert's arms, her voice faint. Robert, my head feels so dizzy, and my stomach isn't feeling well. Robert didn't spare me a glance. He immediately scooped up Sarah and rushed out, his voice filled with an anxiety and panic I had never heard before. Sarah, are you all right? Doctor, call the family doctor quickly. He carried Sarah and rushed past me. I lay helpless in the snow until 2 in the morning, feeling as if the whole world had forgotten me. My body was frozen numb until I woke up with unbearable abdominal pain, only to find a pool of frozen blood beneath me. Hey Robert, they are both your flesh and blood. Why was my child denied the chance to grow into a human form? Why couldn't my child open their eyes healthy, in a delivery room? Why could my child only become a smear of red beneath this falling snow? From now on, we are through. Until death. This is war. Looking up again, 2 bright helicopter searchlights shone directly on my face. Sarah fussed in the hospital all night, claiming she was startled and felt a bit weak. Robert stayed by her side all night. In the morning, the family doctor said she was fine, just emotionally agitated. He breathed a sigh of relief, though a strange irritation lingered. He remembered Eleanor's lifeless eyes in the snow last night. She had also said her stomach hurt. Robert, let's go home. I miss you. Sarah whined, pulling on Robert's hand. He nodded, suppressing the strange feeling in his heart, returning to the Robert family estate. Robert found Eleanor's room empty. Most of her belongings were still there, but she was gone. A maid or staff reported, trembling, that in the latter half of the night, 2 helicopters had landed in the back garden and taken Miss Eleanor away. Helicopters? Robert frowned. Eleanor? Since when did she have that kind of presence? Did she say anything? He asked. Miss Eleanor didn't say anything, but her face was terrifyingly pale, and there seemed to be blood on her. The maid or staff's voice trembled. Blood? Robert's heart sank. Could her abdominal pain last night have been real? Sarah scoffed behind him. Robert, she's definitely pulling another trick to get your sympathy. Maybe she even arranged it herself. What won't a woman like that do to keep you? He didn't reply. Eleanor's desperate eyes flashed before him again. As he was feeling restless, his special assistant entered, his face grim. Mr. Robert, there's a diplomatic note from the Middle East royal palace. Robert took it and unfolded it. A few lines of text, but they felt like a 1,000-pound boulder crushing his chest. Robert, congratulations, you've been dumped by me. Faking your death must have been exhausting, wasn't it? From now on, you don't have to pretend amnesia anymore. You can openly be with your true love. This is an official announcement. I will be marrying Crown Prince Michael and officially becoming the princess. Regarding the past, Mr. Robert, please conduct yourself with discretion and refrain from any disturbance. Eleanor knew about his fake death and fake amnesia. How? Princess? Eleanor? How was that possible? How could she, an orphan girl abandoned by her family in the country, with nothing, connect with the Middle East royal palace? Investigate, Robert practically roared. Find out exactly what's going on. Is Eleanor's grandfather George making moves? Sarah panicked too. Robert, this must be fake, right? How could Eleanor? Robert roughly shook off her hand, the unease in his heart growing wildly like vines. Eleanor's words, what if I told you I might be carrying your child, suddenly exploded in his mind, and her painful groans in the snow last night. He rushed back to the family doctor's room and demanded fiercely, what exactly was that tonic you gave Eleanor last night? The family doctor knelt on the ground, terrified. Mr. Robert, that was a prescription given by Miss Sarah. She said it was to promote blood circulation and regulate uterine coldness. Regulate uterine coldness? Robert grabbed his collar. If she was pregnant, what would that medicine do? The family doctor's face turned ashen. If she was in early pregnancy, that medicine is extremely cold in nature. It would cause a miscarriage, a hemorrhage. Robert's vision went black, and he nearly collapsed. He had personally forced a bowl of abortifacient medicine down her throat. He wanted her to raise Sarah's child, but he had personally destroyed the only child they might have had. Impossible. How could she easily get pregnant with his child? She must be lying to him again. But her desperate eyes in the snow last night, that abdominal pain, Sarah. Robert roared, rushing out and grabbing her by the throat. What did you give Eleanor to drink? What about the baby in her belly? Sarah gagged under Robert's grip, her fingernails scratching several bloody marks on his hand. I don't know. Robert, cough. She was just weak. It wasn't my fault. Sarah squeezed out fragmented defenses from her throat. She said herself she was pregnant. Robert's eyes were bloodshot, and he tightened his grip. Did you tamper with that medicine? A flicker of panic crossed Sarah's eyes, quickly hidden by tears. Robert, how can you think that of me? I love you so much. Why would I harm your child? That medicine really was meant to be a soothing tonic. It was her. She was the one who didn't want the child and wanted to frame me. Frame you? Robert sneered, loosening his grip. Sarah fell to the ground, gasping for air, a hint of triumph in her eyes. He looked at her, but the family doctor's words, miscarriage, hemorrhage, echoed in his mind, and Eleanor's painful, curled up form in the snow, and her blood-soaked question. Why could my child only become a smear of red beneath this falling snow? If she wasn't in extreme pain, why would she say something like that? Guards! Robert roared outwards. The special assistant and several bodyguards rushed in immediately. Escort Miss Sarah. Escort her back to her room. She is not to step out without my permission. Robert's voice was cold, devoid of any emotion. Robert, you can't do this to me. I love you, Sarah shrieked, being forcibly dragged away by the bodyguards. Robert didn't look at her again. He returned to Eleanor's room, which was empty except for the shattered remnants of his mother's sapphire pendant, which she hadn't had time to take with her. He trembling picked up a piece. The sharp edge cut his finger, and blood seeped out. He remembered the blood from Eleanor's forehead when she had knelt, clutching the box of ashes. He remembered the scar from her wrist, burned in the fire. He remembered her fingers, frozen red and bleeding by the icy pond. He remembered the startling crimson spreading beneath her after he had forced that medicine down her throat. One thing after another, all done by his own hands, or allowed by his complicity, and she had known it all. Known about his fake death, known about his fake amnesia. Every word on that diplomatic note was like a slap across his face. Congratulations, you've been dumped by me. From now on, you don't have to pretend amnesia anymore. How long had she known? And how long had she endured his torment in that clear, knowing despair? And that child, his child. Robert's heart felt like it was being fiercely squeezed by an invisible hand, the pain unbearable. He immediately called the family doctor. Investigate. Was Eleanor pregnant? Was the child she lost mine? Half an hour later, the family doctor replied, trembling. Mr. Robert, according to Miss Eleanor's previous medical records and the blood sample found when the room was cleaned last night, she was indeed approximately 7 weeks pregnant. Last night, she did indeed miscarried. The abortifacient medicine he had personally forced upon her had killed his child. Robert's vision went black, and the phone slipped from his hand. Falling to the floor, he was ruined. He had not only completely lost Eleanor but had also personally killed his own child. A mouthful of fresh blood sprayed from Robert's mouth, staining the carpet in Eleanor's room. Mr. Robert, the special assistant exclaimed in shock. Robert waved a hand, wiping the blood from his lips, his eyes becoming strangely calm, terrifyingly calm. Prepare the plane. I'm going to the Middle East. But Mr. Robert, the royal palace has already issued a joint statement explicitly stating they do not wish for you to disturb Her Highness the Princess. I said, prepare the plane. Robert's voice wasn't loud, but it carried an undeniable authority. He had to find her, even if he had to kneel or crawl. He had to find her and tell her he was wrong. He was wrong. The Middle East sun was scorching, yet also bright. I stood on the royal palace terrace, looking out at this unfamiliar yet magnificent city. More than a month had passed since the fire, since the nightmare. The burn on my wrist had long healed, leaving only a jagged scar. I had thrown the platinum bracelet into the Persian Gulf. The cramps in my abdomen had also disappeared. But along with it, the child who had never had the chance to see the world was also gone. It was for the best. Without carrying the burden of the Robert family estate's legacy, I could truly start anew in this foreign land. Your Highness, shall today's lessons begin? The prince's special assistant's respectful voice came from behind me. I turned, nodding slightly. Let's begin. Arabic, royal etiquette, national history. I absorbed everything like a dry sponge. The path grandfather George had laid for me. I had to walk it steadily and well. My new husband, Crown Prince Michael, was gentle and courteous towards me, giving me ample space and respect. He said he admired my resilience and was willing to wait for me to truly open my heart. This kind of peace was something I had never dared to hope for. One day, Grandfather George called, his tone carrying a hint of subtle gravity. Eleanor, Robert is in the Middle East. My hand, holding the teacup, didn't tremble in the slightest. My voice was calm and steady. I see. He wants to see you. He's used a lot of connections, even reaching out to distant relatives of the royal family. I've had people block him, but his methods shouldn't be underestimated. Grandfather, I interrupted him. He's just someone insignificant. He won't see me. Yes, he wouldn't. I immediately instructed the royal palace guards to strengthen security at all entrances and exits. Any eastern faces without my or the prince's personal permission were not to be allowed within the royal palace grounds. Robert, you enjoy playing games, don't you? Then savor the taste of longing for something you can't have. A few days later, the special assistant reported to me with a strange expression. Your Highness, Mr. Robert, he attempted to infiltrate a business delegation to approach you. Our people recognized him and immediately expelled him from the country. However, he seems unwilling to give up and is trying other means. I was practicing calligraphy. Hearing this, my brush tip paused, leaving a sudden ink blot on the calligraphy paper. Then, I spoke calmly. Understood. Next time, you don't need to report this person's whereabouts to me. There was no longer a place for him in my world. A few more days passed, and I was practicing equestrianism at the royal stables. In the sunlight, Crown Prince Michael, in his riding attire, extended his hand to me. His smile gentle. Ready, my princess? I placed my hand in his and nodded with a smile. Just as we were galloping, enjoying the long-lost freedom and ease, a commotion suddenly erupted outside the stables. From a distance, I seemed to see a familiar figure, desperately trying to break through the guard's obstruction, shouting something I couldn't quite hear due to the distance. That figure was disheveled and pathetic. Like a stray dog, it was Robert. Michael reined in his horse, his eyes slightly cold, looking towards the commotion. He then smiled reassuringly at me. Just a small incident, I'll handle it. Let's continue. I nodded, not looking back in that direction again, and galloped away. The commotion outside the stables was quickly quelled by the royal palace guards. In the following days, fragmented news about Robert continued to arrive. he was declared persona non grata by the royal family and expelled from the country a week later. While I was attending a charity gala hosted by the royal family, he somehow managed to appear before me. Having gained entry as a philanthropist who had made a huge donation, he was thinner and much more haggard. His eyes were bloodshot, and his former spirit was gone, replaced only by pathetic pleading. "Eleanor?" His voice was hoarse as he tried to approach me. Crown Prince Michael subtly stepped in front of me, and the guards immediately moved forward. "Mr. Robert." Michael's tone was calm but carried the authority of royalty. "You are not welcome here. Please leave immediately and do not disturb my princess." Robert seemed not to hear. His gaze was fixed on me. Suddenly, with a loud thump, he dropped directly to his knees before me. The entire hall gasped. I was a bastard. I was blind. I shouldn't have believed that poisonous woman, Sarah. I personally hurt you. I killed our child, Eleanor. Please give me another chance, will you? I'll atone with my life. He wept uncontrollably, repeatedly banging his forehead against the cold marble floor. The sound dull and heavy. I looked down at him, a cold curve on my lips. "Robert, your repentance, to me, is worthless, child." "Which child?" "The one you personally forced abortifacient medicine down my throat for, who died inside me without even getting a chance to see this world. Or the one you and your mother planned for me to willingly raise for Sarah." He suddenly looked up, the blood in his eyes deepening, his face full of despair and pain. "No, that's not it, Eleanor. I didn't know that was abortifacient medicine. Sarah lied to me. She said it was for warming the uterus. She said she was very sick, dying. That's why I was momentarily confused. I sneered. You faked a car accident to make me think you were dead. You pretended amnesia to subject me to Sarah's humiliation. You abandoned me in the fire. You allowed her to shatter my mother's memento. You locked me barefoot outside in the snow that night, almost freezing me to death. Can all of this be explained by just saying you were confused? Robert, you weren't confused. You were wicked. Wicked to the core. Yes, I'm wicked. I'm a beast. He fiercely slapped himself across the face. "Eleanor, that bitch Sarah, I've made her pay. I found out she didn't have a terminal illness at all. The medical records were fake. She didn't even have the ability to have children, but she kept lying to me that she would bear my child. Everything she did was to manipulate me, to manipulate you. I've sent her to a mental institution where she'll never get out in her life, letting her taste what it's like to beg for life but wish for death. Eleanor, I've avenged you. Please forgive me, will you?" I listened, my heart unmoved. What happened to Sarah? What did it matter to me? She was pathetic, Robert. You were even more pathetic. Avenged? I scoffed. Robert, you think punishing Sarah can erase the harm you've done to me? What you destroyed was the love I once gave you without reservation. It was our innocent child who died. What will you use to repay these? I'll use the rest of my life. Eleanor, I don't want anything anymore. I can give up everything from the Robert family estate. I just beg you. I beg you to look at me again. Don't look at me with those eyes. I looked down at him, word by word clearly. Robert, listen closely. I, Eleanor, am now Crown Prince Michael's princess, the future queen of this country. The man by my side cherishes me like a precious treasure. My children will grow up with boundless love and care, and you. I paused, watching his face turn ashen at my words, then continued, "To me, you are less than a stranger." Having said that, I took Michael's arm. Under his gentle gaze, I turned and never looked back. Later, I would occasionally see news about Robert in the corners of international reports. He began heavy drinking, his days and nights reversed. The Robert Group's stock plummeted and was on the verge of bankruptcy due to lack of management. His mother, Patricia, unable to bear the successive blows, suffered a stroke and paralysis and lost the ability to speak. He bought a dilapidated small house next to the abandoned old theater from years ago. The theater had long been sealed off, overgrown with weeds. In the ruins of the theater, he personally erected a cenotaph for me, and also for the child who never saw the light of day. There was no tombstone, just a smooth blue stone. Every day, he would sit there for a long time, from sunrise to sunset, saying nothing, just looking at that blue stone, as if he could see my former smile through it. After he stopped drinking, he contracted a more severe chronic cough. His hair turned white, and his back became hunched. Many years later, on a late autumn evening, he coughed up blood and collapsed beside that blue stone, never to rise again. In his hand, he tightly clutched a platinum bracelet, already burned and deformed beyond recognition. By then, I was no longer the Eleanor who had been humble in love, to the point of being in the dust. I was the most respected queen in the Middle East, the mother of 2 children, an envoy dedicated to charity work. As for who Robert was, I had long since forgotten. Some people, some things, once they are past, will never return. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. My new life had nothing to do with him.